that better? Hey everybody, we're just getting situated. Now is the time to grab the caffeine and all the stuff. It looks almost good. Good enough. Good enough for IG. Don't worry, I'm going to spit out my gum here real soon. I get to chew it just a little bit before we start. See here. Yo, yo, yo. Alright. It seems to be working-ish. Hey, Stacy. Hey, Sean. Hey. Oh, boy, my eyes. What is that? T-Lock. T-Lock. The GOAT. What's going on, brother? Experiencing a huge downgrade in Anthropic last 3 weeks. Oh, yeah. Tell me about it, Sean. I might be able to help you. Because I know at least one thing that's causing that. And it has to do with their adaptive thinking. I was experiencing a very similar thing. I'm going to put this over here. And, well, I changed the intelligence or reasoning or something to like ultra high, I think. But then I also turned the adaptive thinking off. I think that's what. Yeah, I think that helped. Maybe before at this point I was running OpenClaw. Oh. Are you still running OpenClaw? I think if you're running OpenClaw, that might be interesting. I think they're nerfing you. That's what I think. So. Oh, I see. Good call. Because of the Claude Code source leak, the retaliation on that was all the takedown notices, but then in addition to that, they were going to upcharge for people, I think, using any front end that wasn't Claude by some factor, maybe like 2x. And it wouldn't surprise me if they were doing other things than just that. Like they were preventing it from spawning subagents and downgrading you to a lesser version of Opus, all that kind of stuff. Because it happened to me too. And then I immediately started yelling at Claude. And then they gave me supposedly a $200 credit. And then it jumped back up to Supreme Intelligence. And then I figured out how to turn the adaptive thinking off. And now it's back to normal. Normal-ish. Like last night I was using it for a whole bunch of complicated things and it was cruising. But then I was using it this afternoon or this morning, and man, it was just crawling. And it still got stuff done. I think it's just like it was massively overloaded. You know, like I could literally count the token burn, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, usually it's so fast that it's just spinning, but I literally could see it incrementing the numbers with it not doing stuff. Like, okay, come on, let's pick up the pace here. Can we please make this faster? Anyway, how's Perplexity working out for you, Sean? And Colin, what do you mean about the A/B pricing? What I'm not familiar with this. Can you share? Might be worth a discussion. I'm not sure, but I did just ping Gemini to have it talk to us about stuff that's happening in the world of AI. So we'd have something to talk about, and it of course had to drop this on me. That the Mythos preview is scoring 93.9% on the SWE bench verified. And I'm about ready to bring up that Berkeley research paper that talks about how they hacked all of the major benchmarks. I mean, I'm not trusting those benchmarks now at all. Not at all. Okay. Gum's gone. It was fun while it lasted. Now I want to go back to vaping. Uh, and that max is $200 for some people. For some people, they go on the pro plan, was around $34 instead of 20, and that max is $200 for some people. Yeah, I think I'm max for $200. Is is that high? Is that low? Somehow, based on the things that I'm doing and the amount of work that I'm getting Claude to do, I kind of feel like I'm farming Claude rather than Claude farming me. If you were to see the things that I'm making it do, it's a busy bee. So I've got a couple of things that I was thinking about talking about tonight. But then I was thinking it's Thursday night, and this week has been a lot. Probably for all of you guys too. And then I was thinking, yeah, maybe we just chill. We talk about really light stuff, you know, like movies that are coming out or what the weather is, rather than, the AI Armageddon, which we can certainly talk about, but it just feels like it's a lot. I gotta turn the refresh rate down on this guy. When I put the refresh rate on too high, well, for me, $200 is not worth it at all. Yeah, totally. I realize that $200 a month is a lot, and for most people, it's just not worth it. Unless you're nuts like me, and you can make Claude do crazy stuff. Crazy, crazy. Oh, yeah. I think I watched the first several seasons of Mr. Robot. Oh, no, the refresh rate is... Oh, no, this is the other one. Refresh rate is 50 hertz here. Oh, that's... Oh, yeah, probably for... Alright, never mind. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Yeah. Uh, yeah, maybe we should, no, talk about, oh, whoops. I Instagram doesn't scroll on the chat sometimes. Let me see what we got here. I don't know what is nerfing. Sean saying I tried to implement paperclip and persistent memory and it wouldn't implement. Okay, my phone died. I didn't hear you said. Oh, Sean, we just started talking about uh, how the Mythos preview model is. Sounds like it's rocking on the SWE bench verified, but I'm about ready to dispel that myth. And what else? Oh, we were talking about the pricing for Anthropic and how $200 a month for Max is a lot. Absolutely agree. And for most people, I think that that's just not, you don't really need all that. But then for some of us, Looney Tunes, where we're having to do crazy stuff. I mean, like, for me, it's worth the $200. Like, if you guys knew the amount of things I'm making it do, you would probably be like, Goju, you should pay Anthropic more than $200 a month. Maybe I'll talk about it at some point in this stream. Maybe I won't. Maybe I won't. You spent $7,500 in 1 month. Ouch. Is that from just going over the limit through API calls? Because yeah, I'm at the max for the base system, but then I also have the APIs that are leveling me up on some more hardcore things. Like I'm having it. One of the things I'm having to do is uh, volumetric amount of video processing, where it's taking some of these live streams and automatically carving them up into 30 and 60-minute segments, which is a like tens of gigabytes of data processing kind of thing, and many other things related to Merly that I can't talk about. Not necessarily code related things, but more just business stuff. So yeah, API calls. Uh huh. Yeah, I feel ya. Yeah, Mr. Robot, I really liked it. I don't recall if I actually got all the way to the end of it. I think I watched at least 2 seasons, and I really liked it. Yeah, good stuff. And some of the hacking that they do in there is, yeah, I mean, it's for people that kind of know what they're doing. For a lot of people, it's super easy to hack them. A lot of the hacking that happens today is just through social engineering. Is people like write their passwords down on a note, like a sticky note, and then stick it to their computer, and so you just walk into their office and yeah. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, Sean. Sean's asking about if I saw that the hackers got into the Mythos codebase. Yes. In fact, along those lines, I may have been talking to some people that are in fintech, and it may be the case that some of these financial institutes, this is all hypothetical, by the way, but it may be the case that some of them are so disenchanted with the lack of security in general around Anthropic, given all the stuff, uh, they are permanently moving away from Anthropic. And I think it's really interesting in that, from my perspective, the Anthropic AI models are like head and shoulders above everybody else, just in terms of pure capability. I'm just talking about capability, what they can do with their AI and how it can dominate. But I think that in this hypothetical world where finance institutes might be moving away from Anthropic, and many people that are on the stream and that I've spoken to that are higher up, maybe potentially moving away from Anthropic. And I think it goes to show that just because you have a technically superior solution, if you're weak in other areas like security, it may not matter, right? For example, if you're a hardware manufacturer for phones, but your phones are super unsafe, they lack robust security, a lot of people won't use those phones simply because of the risk. And so it just doesn't matter. Uh, Another example I think is when you have people that are focusing purely on the performance capabilities of things. So, like, this computer is going to be super fast or this hardware is going to be super fast, but then they don't focus on how to make the user interface smooth. I think that can also shoot you in the foot. And I think in some sense that's been Apple's claim to fame for quite some time, is their ability to make user interfaces that are so easy. It's like the phone almost plays itself. So it's really hard for you to do it wrong. And a lot of people want that, right? I think a lot of people want ease of use. Whereas it doesn't necessarily have that much to do with the actual performance. So I kind of get the feeling that some of this might be happening with, yo, Sean, what's up, buddy? We got multiple Seans. Ideology. Uh, so yeah, I think that it's going to be an interesting path forward for Anthropic. Other thing is, there's very clearly this power issue in the data center space right now, where there's just not enough power. Like, it's not about the compute at this point. It's literally about there's just not enough power available. And so even if you have the compute, we just can't get the power to all those machines. And so they're trying to find clever ways to reduce the power draw. And I think that's part of the stupefaction of Claude. I think that's part of the shutdown for the GitHub accounts, which happened earlier this week, I think. And it's like what we're talking about on how where we are today with AI is not necessarily the real world, in that we're still kind of in the honeymoon phase and people are not really paying what it actually costs. And I think that we're about ready to have that story change, that it's about to get real in here, and we're going to start seeing maybe non-fake pricing. And that's going to change a lot of things. That's my belief. Yeah, I don't want to have an IPO. Me personally, I have zero interest in that. Private ownership, way to go. Oh, right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, man, there's so much going on. Tim Cook is stepping down from the leadership. Yeah, it's kind of amusing to me. I was hearing the murmurings about Tim Cook stepping down as CEO of Apple for some time now. And I was talking with some of the folks that I know at Apple, asking them what, yeah, battery gate for serious. Yeah, I mean, that was some shenanigans. But I was talking to some of my friends that actually are, I don't know, relatively high up at Apple, saying, "What's the deal with Tim Cook?" This is several months ago, and they were like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "So is he leaving, or what's going on?" They're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, the word on the street is that Tim Cook is on his way out. I haven't heard anything about that. I don't- and they seem to be telling the truth, and that would amuse me if they really didn't know. And it could be one of those cases where everybody else in the world knows, but then inside of Apple, they're just living the dream. But not anymore, I guess. What do we know about this new guy? Does anybody know the details? I haven't had time to look him up and learn. Yeah, yeah, Sean, right. Sorry, yes. Yeah. So supposedly Anthropic really does want the IPO, and I think that can tell you a little bit about the state of things inside of Anthropic. Like, part of this supposedly is a race between OpenAI and Anthropic. Whoever IPOs first is going to be the winner or something. Like, I don't know. But it does make me kind of scratch my head a little bit in that what is the rush? Like, why are you so eager to IPO? Is there something going on? Like, you need to IPO because you need to like exit fast because really this is a house of cards and it's all about to come crumbling down. That's the first thing that crosses my mind. Because with all of the incidents that are going on with Anthropic, possibly from moving too fast or being careless, like, I don't know, it's just very hard to understand how these things keep happening to one company that supposedly has the world's most advanced AI. Like, that's really strange. How can you have the world's most advanced AI, yet your stuff continues to get hacked left and right? Mythos is hacked. You open source Claude code. You accidentally leak the documents to Mythos ahead of time. I mean, I feel like there's a ton more that I'm. Oh, yeah, you end up breaking the intelligence of Claude just in general. People are complaining about that like crazy. There's just a lot of stuff. Oh, and I've been seeing clips of Dario online where he's talking about how 50% of all white collar jobs are going to be replaced by AI in the next 2 or 3 years. Bro, okay. Again, I think that the AIs that we have today, are very capable. But the part that's a bit of a disconnect is if we don't have the power infrastructure to support those AIs at scale, or the compute is so intense that it costs significantly more than the human labor, that's not really going to work. And with these layoffs and things, like, you guys probably heard about Meta laying off 8,000 people or something. I think I saw, oh yeah, right here, Snap announced they're cutting roughly 1,000 jobs, 16% of their workforce, explicitly citing AI-driven efficiencies. But I got to tell you, I think a lot of this is just pretend. It's like not really that there are these AI efficiencies, but because everybody's saying it, they can say that and then reduce their overhead and just be more efficient. Maybe it's AI efficiencies. For sure, I think that, like, for me, I'm able to get the AIs to do my bidding and make me significantly more efficient. But I know a lot of people that try to use the AIs to make themselves more efficient, and it ends up doing the opposite. It ends up like breaking their machine or deleting all their software, right? Doing stuff. Now, part of that I think is just putting Claude into auto mode and not necessarily understanding the ramifications of that. So, yeah. Uh, I don't know. I I feel like it's I feel like this is why we need GTT, just so we can have some level of sanity where at least you can know that I'm trying my best to tell the truth. Whereas a lot of this other stuff that's coming out in the news or the market, like, it feels so cooked and pretend we're it's like we're living in this fantasy world where I don't know that you can trust anything that you read anymore. Is crazy. Oh yeah, and then there's also this Cursor is in talks for. I thought Cursor was getting acquired by XAI or some or SpaceX or whatever. Elon's little thing. Following this trend, Cursor is reportedly in talks to raise capital at a staggering 50 billion plus valuation. But I thought I had seen something in the news where Cursor was being acquired by SpaceX. But maybe that's, yeah. I don't know. Are you guys hearing similar things? That's right. That's absolutely right. Like, yeah, I heard about that, about the Oracle stuff, and that the layoffs tend to drive the share prices up. Because it supposedly is a signal of efficiency, right? It's like, oh, those executives are being so efficient. They're able to streamline things. And so it's a less of a spend, but they're still at the same revenue. So their quarter over quarter, year over year profits are going to be up or something. Not considering that, well, if you lay off people that you really need, it's quite possible that your efficiency is going to go the other way. So there's that detail. I kind of feel like we saw a little bit of that recently, where a whole bunch of people were fired from this one institute, and then it turned out that some of those people had really important jobs, and then very basic things that we needed to get done couldn't get done because the people that did those things no longer work there. Like that's bad. Kind of don't want that to happen. Oh, that's interesting, Sean. Right, yeah, Microsoft invested in OpenAI. They used to have this lovey-dovey relationship. I can tell you definitively now, based on the birds that whisper in my ear, that it is not lovey-dovey anymore at all. And yeah, so OpenClaw partnering with OpenAI, that's very interesting. Sweet. Sweet, Dat. Yeah, glad you made it to another live stream. Yeah, the or I think maybe in one of the chats we're talking about the new guy being the head of engineering. I think I saw like something like that, or the head of hardware. Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy world out there right now for I think anybody looking for a job. But hold on, let's see. Tim Cook's replacement. John Turnus, yeah, currently Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering. That is very interesting. I mean, that happens. When I was at Intel, there was like a very long history of engineers, very senior engineers becoming CEO. But then I think that stopped maybe, was it around Paul Otellini? I can't remember. But Bob Swan was not. He was the CFO. Pat Galsinger, he was an engineer, I think. And then Brian Krasanich, I can't remember. I'm not sure if he was an engineer. But I think that's cool. I always get pretty excited when engineers are the CEO. But it might not necessarily be a good thing, right? Just, I mean, look, I'm a technologist myself. And I also function as CEO. And there's lots of stuff that I don't know and I screw up because I don't have like an MBA and know all the business stuff. So while I think it's awesome and I love the idea of engineers, yeah, I think actually it might have been more than that, Sean, as far as Microsoft buying 25%. I think that in that last fundraise, they took something like a 49% stake in OpenAI. Something like that. It was quite a bit. And now Sam Altman, I think, is maybe he did the massive raise already. I feel like there were some big tranches. One of those tranches, supposedly, I think was from SoftBank, and it required that OpenAI become a for-profit company, which I don't know if that has happened yet. Does anybody know if that actually kind of like got through or not? Hmm. And I saw in the news uh, just today, I think, that Sam Altman and Elon are finally getting to have their court time fun. Let's see. So, Sam Altman and Elon Musk court. Look at this. Yeah, 7 hours ago. Oh, 8 hours ago. Let's click on the New York Times. Elon Musk and Sam Altman's epic fight heads to court. Jury trial. Interesting. So jury trial. Huh. Jury trial is set to start on Monday. Could shift the course of the AI race, with Musk seeking billions of dollars in damages from Mr. Altman's OpenAI. Yeah, that one's a really interesting one. Do you guys know about this? I mean, I don't know all the details because I have better things to do than just read about these guys suing each other. But let me shrink this a little bit. There we go. Uh, but in the early phases of OpenAI, back before anybody knew who Sam Altman was, they were, of course, not for profit. And yeah, they were not for profit. And they took a very large investment from Elon Musk. And he was like on their board, I think. And when you're that small and you're not that well known, having somebody that's as famous as Elon Musk that's on your board and one of your major investors, that's gonna open up a lot of doors. That would likely like this is one of the core challenges of getting traction with companies is this whole idea of do people know who you are? Because there's like a trust thing. Because there's a lot of frauds out there, and people are just trying to be careful to not get taken for a ride. But if you got someone like Elon, who he's a lot of things, but I think generally speaking, I mean, he's trying to keep it on the up and up, I guess is what I'm trying to say, with Tesla and SpaceX and, at least you can see that there's forward progress. You can see that there are actual automobiles. You can see that there are rockets, this type of thing. And so without Elon being there in the initial phase, does OpenAI get kind of anywhere? And I think that's kind of one of the things that Elon's legal team is arguing is it wasn't just the $30 million investment or whatever in their seed round. It was also that they were riding on the coattails of Elon Musk's credibility. And I think that warrants some serious consideration. Now, is that worth billions of dollars? Well, I think it's all contextual because I think it's largely based on how much the company is worth right now in proportion to how much Elon owned as an early investor for the company at the time. So if it was like he owned 30% of the company and he was influential to getting it off the ground, and now the company is worth $500 billion dollars or some other pretend number that VCs are massively overinflating, which is likely going to get annihilated in the IPO, as it tends to be the case, at least after the first 48 hours, the first week where things kind of settle. But yeah, I could see Elon having a reasonable good case here. Like this is this is it's quite curious to me because the stuff that Sam Altman has done has been pretty egregious. I'm not saying that Elon is perfect. I think that Elon's made plenty of mistakes, but some of the stuff that Sam has done and continues to do is so sketchy. Right? Like supposedly, this is all hearsay. I don't know if this is actually the truth, but supposedly he actually had written this manifesto for OpenAI employees on how they can survive the AI apocalypse when it arrives. So they can get into their bunker and all these things. And you're like, that's a very curious thing for a guy that is the founder and CEO of an AI company. Like you're saying that your own company is going to bring about the Armageddon. So then, what are you doing exactly? What? So you're trying to bring about the Armageddon, the end of everything. But I guess as long as you have enough money, you can hang out in the bunker. Like I don't, long term, I don't know if that's sustainable. At some point, you probably need to get out of the bunker and like eat normal food again or breathe normal air. I don't know. It's is is it like the little things for me that maybe give me pause. Okay, I gotta take a quick 2 minute break. You guys keep chatting it up. I'll be right back and we'll get in a little bit more. This might be a super short stream, but again, I think as all you know, I'm trying my best to do the daily live sessions. So, like I'm massively sleep deprived. I think maybe I got 3 hours last night cuz we're working on this incredibly important proposal that we got wrapped up, and it got submitted, I think, early afternoon, something like that. But I was cranking on it with my AIs and stuff for some time. So it's amazing that I'm still even conscious right now. Anyway, 2 minutes. I'll be right back. Almost back. Need some more ice. Alrighty. Yo, Loyola. What's going on, brother? What are we talking about, T-Lock? As far as the crank. That's great. I'm being quoted. Cranking on it with my AIs. Mm. Yeah, I was. Guys, I gotta tell you, once you start to really unlock the power of the AIs, it starts getting a little wacky. Some of the stuff that you can do. Like I probably burned through. I had a trigger at first to notify me every 100,000 tokens that I was burning through yesterday. So every time it burned through another 100,000 tokens, it like paused and said, "Hey, check in." And then I got so annoyed by the pauses. I was like, "Only stop after you've burned over 1 million tokens." If this gives you insight into some of the stuff, like for example, I had 3 or 4 instances of Claude open. Each of those instances was working on different projects, and each of those projects was probably running, I don't know, a dozen to 2 dozen sub agents. This is the kind of lunacy that I was doing for about 12 hours straight. Yeah, 1 million. Yeah. Because 100,000 was just happening too fast. It was creating too many pauses, right? Because I go into full auto mode. I told you, I'm out of my mind, guys. Like, I'm really pushing the envelope here. Uh, but I'm in auto mode. Which is basically, for those of you that don't know, this is the don't ask me questions about anything. I kind of know what I'm doing, and so don't even bother wasting my time asking for permission because it's too slow. Now, I don't recommend, want to be clear, I do not recommend that anybody does this. It's super dangerous. If you don't know exactly what you're doing, it is really, really dangerous to use Claude in auto mode. But basically, what that means is that normally when you're using it, every time it's going to do something that might be dangerous, like visit a website or read a private directory or write to a file, it has to ask permission. And auto mode basically says, don't do any of that stuff. If I ask you to do something, just do what you need to do and go crazy. Yeah. Now, you can, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you can. This is where a lot of people have really hosed themselves, because this is not for amateurs. Not that I'm saying I'm an expert at anything, but this is sort of like what I do, I guess. So the likelihood that I'm gonna royally cook myself, it can still happen, but I'm very regimented. So I have like a lot of parameters and rules that are already in place to keep them sandboxed. And I also have everything backed up and multiple copies stored in other accounts. So worst that can happen is it could just wipe out the current instance and then like I start over. So it's not like there's going to be permanent damage, right? So these are the kinds of things that you do to set things up before you go into super crazy mode. But when you go into super crazy mode, your full auto mode, then you can start launching these sub agents, and you've got like 15 sub agents, and they're all working in parallel because the tasks that you're doing are so massive, and you can get an incredible amount of stuff done in a really short period of time. You're going to burn through tokens really fast, though. And so I thought having some kind of regulation on the token burn at 100,000 tokens, that was like the increment limit, would be reasonable. And then because I was doing so much, it became more of an annoyance. And then that's when I cranked it up to 1 million. Uh, but yeah, like one of the things that I was doing is I was processing some of the live stream video, and some of these videos are on the order of 10, 20 gigabytes that it's got to process through the videos. And so it's launching these subagents for different partitions of the video to do various editing, right? So it's it's like a lot of work, but it's not super dangerous work, if that makes sense. I mean, some of it was a little bit tricky, but it wasn't like mining the internet where it could accidentally visit some phishing site and get into trouble. At least to the best of my knowledge. Maybe my machine's fully infected now, and I'm infecting all of you just through this live stream. I'm just kidding. That can't actually happen. At least to the best of my knowledge, that can't happen. It'd be only like if I sent everybody a file and you downloaded that file to your machine, something like this. So don't do that. No matter how much you like the streamer, don't accept files from your streaming friends. Oh yeah, one thing that I think all of you know that I love doing is I love doing the location check-in, especially on a Thursday. So, do you guys mind, if you're comfortable with it, drop in where you're dialing in from? So I think I saw, Dark up there, and I know Dark's from. Yeah, we are building an AI, but it's not sentient. I promise it's not sentient. Although I've actually wondered quite a bit about this, right? Like at some point, maybe we'll have the philosophical debate of what exactly it means to be sentient. Because I think that's where it starts to get murky. Like, I think that AIs are not human. And sweet. Okay. Ideology is calling in from North Virginia. Amazed is dialing in from the Canaries. Excellent. Anybody else want to share? I'm, of course, dialing in from Northern California, as I suspect most of you probably know. Jersey. Excellent. I don't know if you guys know this, but I was actually born in Jersey. Born in Livingston, New Jersey, in the great year of 1975. And then immediately left Jersey and moved to Arizona. Went back a couple times. Nice place. A little too humid for me, though. Anybody else? SoCal, Florida. What's the weather like over in Florida right now? Legal. Yeah, and how's the weather in SoCal, Sean? The weather in NorCal right now is rainy, but nice actually. The dog and I ran. We did like a 4 mile run. Actually, that's a lie. I did a 4 mile run. He did like 2 miles because he's lazy. It's not that he can't do it. He can. It's just that he's so eager to get out of the house and then go on the walk and stuff. But then there's a 1 mile point that he knows where it is our turnaround point, and it's like he knows that if we go beyond that, it's probably going to be a 4 mile run. And so by the time we start approaching it, he starts pulling on the leash. Like, I can't go any farther, Daddy. No, Daddy. No, Daddy, I can't do it. So then I stop and I turn around. And then, of course, he bolts, right? He's sprinting now home. Like, clearly could have done much further, but he's old, so I try to cut him some slack. Uh, 70s and 80s, that's nice. I think it's in the 50s over here. Oh, okay. Oh, we have multiple Floridans. That's awesome. I think I've only been to Florida once or twice, but nice place. Really great weather. Maybe I'll talk about. There is one thing I wanted to talk about, and it was intellectual honesty. And it was just something I was thinking about because I was running into some interesting things on GTT and Merly and just general things that I've seen with people. I realize this is a little bit off the beaten path, but I think it actually has a lot to do with a lot of stuff. And I feel like a lot of the manufactured drama we have in life stems from people, very intelligent people, not being intellectually honest. So let me, oh yeah, no, hurricane season, yeah, hard pass for me. No thanks. Yes, that's a really good downside of Florida. Yeah, those natural disaster type things, just in general. In California, we don't really have to deal with the hurricanes, but we have to deal with the fires every year. Like, I don't know why we have to deal with the fires every year. I can't tell if it's because we're not having enough controlled fires and then there's just too much dead brush. So then one match causes this massive thing. Like, again, I'm not trying to make a judgment call. I legitimately don't know. All I know is that I've lived in California now for 15 years, and it feels like every summer there's going to be some massive fire that's going to be hundreds of acres. Like this last year, I feel like, didn't we lose a significant portion of Malibu in the 2025, is it 2025 fires? Something like this. I I'm so in a my own little universe with all the Merly stuff and GDT and teaching that I can't like remember dates of things. But let me take a look at this. It's like 2025 California fires, Malibu, right? Yeah, here we go. The Palisade fires was a highly destructive wildfire that began in Santa Monica Mountains in Los Angeles County on January 7th, 2025, and grew to destroy large areas of the Pacific Palisades, Topanga, and Malibu before it was fully contained on January 31st. Yeah, pretty intense stuff. Yeah, look at this. This is not, holy bejeebers. You guys seeing this? Now the IGers can see it. IGers and TikTokers. Supposedly we are actually streaming to TikTok. I I have no way of knowing since I feel kind of bad actually. I We have a presence on TikTok and like we distribute the videos and stuff there. And there's a couple of people that I've met on TikTok that are just totally awesome. But I tend to stay a little bit more glued to the hip with IG. And so I don't visit that often for TikTok. But I did actually log in earlier today and was trying to field a whole bunch of comments and questions and stuff. And I do have to say, like, the TikTok community is pretty chill. It's at least the way that they're interacting with me. And of course, I get at least 10% trolls in any post that I make or appearance or anything like that. But that's just to be expected. Like that's more like par for course. If there weren't 10% trolls, I would wonder if I'm living in like Pleasantville or whatever that fake Jim Carrey life was. I forget the name of this movie. Yeah, no, absolutely right. People lost millions by being underinsured, and man, it's on top of that too. Some of this county that was impacted by the fires. This is I don't. Many of you probably haven't been to Malibu. I almost went to school in Malibu. I for the Truman Show. Yeah, I got accepted to Pepperdine and ended up not going for a variety of reasons. But I visited their campus, and look at that! Wow. Yeah. Um, and it's gorgeous. Malibu is, I think, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. It's just really, or it was, right? And so I haven't been to Malibu since the fires. So I'm not sure what it's like, but yeah. I have some friends that have houses or families there that have basically told me that they kind of just lost everything. And they, even if they were insured, it's like the insurance companies are playing games with them as they do. And so they're just cooked. I mean, shit. Sorry, I didn't. That's bad, Goju. They're in a bad way, which sucks. Yeah, it's not great when like your whole life is up in flames. Yeah, Colin, why would you hate to own property in Florida and California? I mean, I own property in California and I hate it a little bit for a number of reasons. Probably the biggest reason is the property tax is insane. Like it's not even the mortgage. I mean, there is that, but my property tax for where I live, and keep in mind, it's not like I live in a mansion or anything. This isn't Many of you probably grew up in houses that are twice the size of this shack that I live in NorCal. It's not like I'm hanging out at Atherton and I'm in a $20 million house, right? This is just 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath kind of thing. Maybe it's two. I think it's more like 1.5. But my property tax is more than what a lot of people pay for their mortgage. Uh, for the whole year. It's that much. Yeah, it's crazy. And it keeps going up, right? And which I thought like you couldn't actually do. I thought it was fixed to the price of the house. But again, I had to when I was first creating Merly, I bootstrapped the company. And so I refinanced my house and took part of that equity to fund the company. And when I did that, I think they had to reappraise it. And of course, in NorCal, one thing that's nice is the cost, the housing market continues to go up and to the right, which worked to my advantage for the refinance, but it didn't work to my advantage when they reappraised it, and it was worth another $500,000, and so that is now in the books, and it's part of my property tax. So, yeah, maybe what me and the dog are gonna do is sell this baby, and just go rent an apartment, and that's gonna be so much cheaper just because of the property tax that I don't have to pay every year. I'm probably just bitter just because the second payment for the property tax just happened a couple weeks ago, and every time I have to write that check, I'm just like, what is going on? This is like a full year of tuition at Stanford or something. Like, really? Yeah, no, I think that one of the things, yeah, that's right, Colin. Yeah, so one of the things that I saw, it's interesting you're mentioning that. So Colin saying, at least in California, State Farm is pulling out and leaving families to carry the brunt of the climate-related disasters, denying their claims outright by not renewing. Uh, who is insurance benefiting? Yeah, no. I mean, it's like it's a scam, right? It's really, there's some fundamental questions that I think we could ask about how insurance should, like, there's some things I don't want to get political because we don't really do politics on GDT, but there are some things that I think it makes sense for the government to have oversight and involvement on. And one of those things I think is potentially insurance. And the reason why is that it's my belief that insurance should not be a for-profit domain. Because once insurance starts becoming for-profit, then companies will try to maximize their profit while they're trying to sell security. And this is a very strange thing to do, right? Like if you're trying to sell security, the people that are buying it are intended to be secure. Like that's the whole point of it. So if you buy the security, then when things go wrong, one would expect that that security is there and it protects you. But if you make it a for-profit industry, then companies are now inverting it to where the goal is to essentially charge as much as they can get away with for the coverage of that thing, and then find as many ways possible to not have to pay when that protection or that insurance is actually needed. Now, I want to be clear that this is nuanced, right? And there's some people that try to game the system, you know, and they like commit arson and try to burn their house down. So certainly there's going to be bad actors, but I would like to believe that those are mostly anomalous, and that when you get something like the Palisade fires in SoCal, those people were not all in cahoots with each other. They were victims of, and I think victims in the truest sense of the word is they didn't ask for it. I don't think they wanted their houses to burn down. And so it was just an act of God, as they say. And in those cases, I feel like the insurance that you buy should cover those things. Or at least I thought that that was one of the main reasons why you have things like house insurance, or why you have car insurance for these acts of God, like hail damage, right? Or random strange things that happen while you're driving on the freeway and like a tree falls on your car or something, or on your house. But then if those things now are not covered, or supposedly, I think there were some insurance companies that went and they changed the insurance policy something like 6 months or something, maybe a year before the Palisade fires. And keep in mind, this wasn't by accident, right? Because these insurance company people who's running it, they're not dumb. And so what they're doing is they're doing a deep level of demographic analysis to understand the risk reward trade off. And what they were seeing is that there's a high, this is why, like, oftentimes insurance companies won't insure houses that are in flood zones. And the only reason why I know so much about this nonsense is my ex-wife is like this world-renowned researcher in natural disasters. So, I was married to her for 11 and a half years, and she taught me all kinds of stuff that I never would have learned on my own, but she's written many books on this stuff, and so I just know random trivia about this. But so one of the things the insurance companies will do is they're doing risk assessment constantly. And in those risk assessments, when they deem certain areas as too high risk, they do what Colin's saying. They'll do one of two things. First, they'll bail and say, well, no, we're not going to insure this zone anymore because it's just too high risk. And that kind of makes sense. Like, again, if they're a for-profit company, they're like, well, we need to make money and this is going to go south on us. So you could see them exiting. But it also goes back to why insurance companies probably shouldn't be for profit, is that it should probably be a government subsidized thing in some capacity. I'm not trying to argue for big government. I'm also not trying to get political. I'm just trying to look at the situation like, how could you stop the scenario where people are trying to insure their homes and then they don't insure it properly for some reason because they're getting gamed by the insurance companies, and then they end up losing their life savings, right? Like, that's like, imagine if your life savings was basically your house and you're going to retire in 2 years and you're going to sell your house, and then that's going to be your retirement. That's going to be your nest egg. And then a year before your retirement, you get the fires. And then it turns out that your insurance wasn't set up properly because of some shenanigans, or you're not paying enough attention. Like, I'm in that boat all the time. I have no idea what my house insurance says. I think it's farmer's insurance. I think they just update it and say, this is what it is. And I say, sweet, that's what it is. Cool. I have other stuff to do. I never even look at it. So it's entirely possible that, like, I'm not even properly insured. And I think a lot of people are like this. We have too much going on. And so we kind of just sign at the dotted line. But now if you get people that are basically expecting that and they're diminishing the coverage or playing some shenanigans because they're doing the deep risk assessment that you're not, because you're expecting people to kind of be acting in good faith, and then you get raked over the coals, right? Like that. It's not great. Yeah, legal. I haven't. So legal saying that she drove through Malibu last August is very sad. I drove through Malibu in 2023. Yeah. I think it was spring of 2023. 2 years before this. Just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's just like, it's at least what I did is I came down on the one. This is the highway that runs like basically down the coastline. And it's one of the most beautiful highways, I think maybe in the United States, or at least from what I've seen and what a lot of people say. Because you're kind of just meandering. It is actually a little bit dangerous. So if you watch GDT and you're like, oh, Goju says go drive on the one, be real careful because it weaves and it winds. But you get to drive past places like Big Sur. You get to drive past Pebble Beach. Malibu. There's just a bunch of really gorgeous places. Santa Cruz. And yeah, I just remember driving through Malibu thinking, wow, this place is so gorgeous. Maybe at some point when I retire, which is never, that I'll move down here and just have the ocean be my backyard. Not that I could afford it, but you know, it is just real. What's interesting about it is it's very chill. It's not, at least for me. For example, if you go further south to places like San Diego, and I love San Diego, it's a great place, but it feels a little bit more like commercialized. And there's a lot of people there, and it feels very dense. And for an introverted nerd like me, it's probably like too many people, too much going on. I just, not my cup of tea. Whereas places like Orange County, which, by the way, if you've never been to Orange County, strongly recommend Orange County. It's just one of the coolest places, again, for people that are nerdy introverts that like the ocean but don't necessarily want to be in like the LA scene. Very cool place. But Malibu's kind of the same way. It's even more off the beaten path than Orange County is. And yeah. In fact, that's actually why I was going through Malibu, is I was driving down to do, it was like a company retreat that we were having from really in Orange County. And yeah. So anyway, so much for lighthearted discussion that we were going to have on Thursday night. Who brought this up? It was, I'm sure it was me. Uh, hmm. Okay. Intellectual honesty. Let's talk about intellectual honesty just for a moment here. I think this is something that, I don't know, at least for me, it's very near and dear to my heart. And, oh, yeah, T-Lock. T-Lock, did you say you're from Florida? Is that right? And yeah, I think a lot of people say that Florida and California have a lot in common. And I think, beaches and stuff and temperature. I think Florida is hotter. I mean, at least compared to NorCal. NorCal's much more of a moderate climate, whereas SoCal is hotter and things. Anyway, so there's this idea of intellectual honesty or intellectual dishonesty. And this is something that comes up quite a bit in my circles because I work with a whole bunch of really smart people. And I love working with really smart people, but there is a potential downside. I mean, there's really smart people that have bad intentions is not a good combination, right? Because, like, not super smart people that have bad intentions, there's, like, only so much they can kind of get away with because it's hard for them to maybe trick everybody. Whereas somebody that's hyper intelligent, I think they can game and farm and manipulate very easily and kind of like bend the world to their Jedi mind trick, so to speak. So anyway, a lot of the people that I work with are just hyper intelligent, which I love. But with that hyper intelligence, one of the things that I think is a natural byproduct of high degrees of intelligence is critical analysis. Their ability to think critically and deeply assess any kind of situation, which is part of the reason why they're hyper intelligent, right? Is they can see the cracks in the story, they can come up with novel solutions, all of this type of thing. And when their powers are being used for good, it's a great thing. But one of the things that I think really can be frustrating with hyper intelligent people is when they are intellectually dishonest. And what I mean by this is that you'll have someone that is not being intellectually honest, and they will see some scenario where it's like 98% correct, like 98% buttoned up, but there's like 2% flaws, as there tend to be with almost any scenario. But then they lean in significantly harder on this 2% of weakness of the system, and then make that become like a much bigger deal than it really is. Now, if you get hyper intelligent people that are doing this, and they have like a lot of self-confidence, it's very easy, I think, for them to convince other people about these sort of false narratives, these false problems. And it can send an entire group in the wrong direction, right? It's basically you're taking everyone else off of the plot because of this small thing, and it's a choice. It's that you are sort of intentionally misleading by not considering the essence of the scenario, the essence of what's really going on, and instead focusing just on these tiny little cracks. And because you're super smart, you can rationalize it, and you're right? This is one of the things they say is you can find holes in any argument. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the argument is flawed. It just means that there tends not to be any completely bulletproof argument. Same with security for software systems. It's impossible, essentially, to have a perfect level of security for any software system. It's a nines problem, is that the best you can get is 99 point and some number of nines. It can never be 100%. It's just not possible, especially as systems get more and more complex. So what I think makes this really challenging is when you have a team of people and they're all trying to work together, and you get a hyper intelligent person that decides in the moment to start behaving with intellectual dishonesty. They're choosing to not actually see the essence of a thing or act in good faith, but just in this moment, right? Like in general, they're good actors, but for some reason, maybe they have a grudge with somebody, or they have a bone to pick. Like there's just some reason why they're leaning. Maybe they're traumatized about this particular thing. Maybe they're just having a really bad day, but then they derail the entire group, or they basically mislead or misrepresent or do something. But because of their hyperintelligence, it's so compelling that other people kind of buy into it. And this is one of the things that I'm massively allergic to, is if I work with people and I see that they are demonstrating intellectual dishonesty, sometimes, honestly, it has to do with low self-esteem. I see people that they're not used to being wrong. Like it's very common for hyper intelligent people to be wrong less than people that are not hyper intelligent. And so then they get into these scenarios where they're so used to being right, but now they're working with other people that are just as intelligent as they are, and they're not necessarily the smartest person in the room. And so now suddenly they're not coming up with the best ideas, or someone else is outthinking them, but they're not willing to acknowledge that because of low self-esteem or something, that the need to be right. And so they start behaving in this intellectually dishonest way. They start basically trying to create drama or conflict that's not real, simply oftentimes out of insecurity, or sometimes known as arrogance. And I think it's kind of strange, just this word arrogance, because I think when you say arrogance, a lot of times people think, oh, you're so arrogant, almost like it's a compliment. Like, you're so arrogant, and it's this, or you're so cocky, and it's like this belief that because of that, you have so much self esteem. And it's actually the opposite in my mind, is that if you are really arrogant, you're really cocky, where you kind of need to be tooting your own horn about how amazing you are, usually that's due to the need for external validation. And the need for external validation is, I mean, I think a lot of people like to have external validation, but if you have a reliance on external validation, one could attribute that to low self-esteem. Is that if you had a really strong center, you wouldn't necessarily rely on external validation. Internal validation ideally would be sufficient. Therefore, it wouldn't matter really if what other people think of you. Like, if they think you're smart, they don't think you're smart, this kind of thing. But now you go back to that intellectual dishonesty thing, and you take the person that's hyper intelligent but maybe wrong about something, and they are not used to having to eat crow or save face or admit that, oh, I made a mistake here. I had a misstep. And that has caused so many problems in work that I've done, that what I try to do now is I try to basically identify very quickly if people are going to behave with intellectual dishonesty. And I'll usually give them a chance. Like, it'll usually be very obvious where this thing is like very clearly wrong, and everybody knows that it is, but someone's not budging. And it could be that, like, in the moment, it can be hard to... I got a little chapped lip here. There we go. I realize that in the moment, it can be hard for a lot of people to say, oh, I made a mistake. And I think that that's actually a really good skill to learn, is to accept that you're just human and we're all going to make mistakes. And the faster you can acknowledge that you made a mistake, the faster you can move beyond it. And so this is something that I try to do, is when I get something wrong, I try to just own up to it as fast as I possibly can. One, because the faster I can realize my mistake, the faster I can fix it and learn and move on and do something else. But again, because of low self-esteem. So it's really interesting to me, because what I will often do is, if I find that someone is behaving without intellectual honesty, I will often first approach them and say, hey, I think you're behaving a little intellectually dishonest here. And you're leaning into something that we kind of both know is not really a thing, and you're kind of sidestepping this, or you're making this thing that is not really an issue into a major issue, and it's sort of hurting our relationship, or our ability to make forward progress, our ability to be productive. And the first time somebody does it, at least in my circles, after I make them aware of it, I think it's okay. Or at least the way that I approach it is I want to try to, and keep in mind, like what I see for people that are intellectually dishonest is it's a recurring pattern. So people that they tend to be really intellectually honest. They're just intellectually honest. And so they just are cool with stuff. They're not going to double down, triple down on things when everybody else can see that they're wrong. I suspect everybody that is on the stream right now knows somebody like this, where it mostly has to do with this intellectual honesty or dishonesty. It usually has to do with someone that can't accept being wrong, or the opposite is they always need to be right. This is, I think, one of the worst qualities you can have, is this incessant need to be right. I think instead what you should shoot for is the need to grow. Because growth is, I think, so much better, and ultimately it's way more powerful than being right. Like, who cares if you're right? That's just like an ego thing, so you can flex on other people. But growth is something where, like, you're actually getting better. But I realized that, through training and psychological reinforcement when we're kids, getting praised on these notions that your parents told you you're so smart when you're right, it starts to become sort of like this Pavlovian behavior. And so your neural network, your neurology gets rewired, and then it sticks with you. And then as an adult, you kind of have these childlike behaviors. So this is, I think, one of the key things that happen to hyper intelligent. Yes, exactly, Ursina. Key things that happen to, and again, notice the binding of being hyper intelligent, because as a child, you're rewarded constantly for being right. If you're hyper intelligent, you're often getting that message significantly more, and then you become accustomed to, I'm always right. And then when you're wrong, it's an unusual thing. And for me personally, like, part of the humble pie that I got is when I was doing my doctorate, and I was suddenly surrounded by all these people that are just way smarter than me. And prior to that, like, it wasn't as common. But then once I got into PhD program, it was literally like every one of my cohort was smarter than me. And so I started to get really comfortable with the idea of being the dumbest person in the room and constantly not being right. And I had to eat a lot of humble pie, which was a massive kind of like ego blow at the time. But really, it wasn't. It was that it was making me better. It's hard to see these things in the moment, but being through it, like, it's very easy for me to see it now. Is I'm kind of through it, and I can reflect on it and be like, oh yeah, this is like one of the greatest learning experiences of my life, getting to learn how to deal with being wrong in a very public way. Because I think once you can start getting comfortable with not being right in a public setting, what that really does is it increases your self-esteem significantly, because you no longer need to be correct. You have sort of this acceptance of who you are as a person, that you're going to do the best that you can do. You're going to know that you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay, right? You're not going to like try to make mistakes, but you're going to already be okay with the notion that I will make mistakes. And so when I do, and someone says, oh, Goju, you got this wrong, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm an idiot. Like, of course I got this wrong. My bad. And you don't even know what it is. Like, you're so comfortable with the idea of you're not always going to get it right, because you've trained yourself the opposite of this incessant need to be correct. You've trained yourself to the fact that when you're really trying to push the boundaries of things and you're doing so many divergent things in, like, at such a velocity, it's impossible to move at that speed and be 100% correct. So then you have a choice, right? You have this choice of like, try to push the envelope and do the impossible and know you're going to make mistakes, or stay in the box where it's safe, limit your ability to actually do really, really meaningful things. Because if you did that, there's a really good chance that you're going to make mistakes, and then people are going to call you out on it. And then, are you going to be comfortable with that? Are you going to be, and honestly, when I first created Notica, my first startup, I was not okay with it. And my players would say, oh, Goju, you have this bug. And I would like take this personally. That's not a bug. That's not a bug. You know, this is what I mean about being intellectually dishonest. I used to do this, right? And what intellectual dishonesty is oftentimes it's just defensiveness. It's just insecurity. That's all it is. And really it's slowing you down. It's slowing down your personal growth. It's damaging the relationships you have with people, because oftentimes people can see that you're not being intellectually honest, and they're kind of like, they may even agree with you simply because you're just such a pain in the ass. They don't want to argue with you. I gotta turn off my my signal. Anyway, so the point of all of this is, I think it's really a good idea to do as much as you can to fight the urge to be right. Because once you can get comfortable, I think this is a lot of the crux of it, at least what I've seen, is that once you can get very comfortable with the notion of not necessarily needing or wanting to be right, but instead wanting to grow, then you see failure as an opportunity for growth. And the truth is, the more you're wrong, the more you have opportunity to grow. Because every time you're wrong about something, it means that you didn't, I mean, unless you're doing it on purpose, which I hope nobody's like going out of their way to intentionally mislead people. But for me, if I make mistakes, it's usually because I just didn't know. But rather than beating myself up about it, how could you not know this, Goju? Oh my gosh, like you're so stupid. I'm just like, I can't know everything. And so I got that wrong because I didn't know. I'm not going to be intellectually dishonest, and I'm not going to posture, and I'm not going to flex or deflect or whatever. I'm instead going to take it right to the face and say, oh, yeah, my bad. Thank you. Learn from it, and then just move on. And then that unlocks this superpower of growth. But it only works if you're very comfortable with being intellectually honest. You have to be able to be intellectually honest. If you don't have this ability, then you're literally going to slow your growth down significantly. And it's crazy how many people I've seen that are super smart, that work really hard, but because of this incessant need to be right, or the fact that they're highly defensive, it inhibits their growth. And at least in the circles that I run in, it's not acceptable to be intellectually dishonest. Like in the circles that I run in, if you are being intellectually dishonest in repetition, you will be ostracized from these groups. They will just kick you out because they'll just be like, you're not, literally what it really comes down to is it will be that you're not mature enough emotionally to be in this group, because everybody else in this group is okay with being wrong, and they know that everybody else is hyper intelligent. We're all here to learn from each other, but you don't have that quality. And so until you're able to mature, because really it's just a maturity thing, you can't be part of this group because you're hurting the group too much. And these people are just so smart, and they're not going to have their productivity or their progress be inhibited by one jackass that's like really insecure and needs to be coddled. Yeah. Okay. So this is this is my rant about intellectual honesty. And if you take anything away from this, my takeaway, I think, is this: if you ever find yourself trying to defend an indefensible position, just stop. Just stop and say, it doesn't matter, because oftentimes when exactly, those are the truly brilliant people, the ones that can say, you know what, actually, I was being emotional about this, I was being reactionary about this, and that was just my own ego. That was me not being a stoic. That was me seeking validation. That was me having insecurity. But now that I've had a moment to kind of gain my composure, like, I was wrong there. Thank you for helping me. I deeply appreciate it. Uh, I've learned this new thing, and let's move on. Yeah. And I think that, to add one more detail, it almost feels as though there can be this direct binding to where the smarter you are and the more senior you are, the easier it is for you to be intellectually dishonest, because you can outthink everybody else. You're so senior that a lot of people won't challenge you. And if you're not open to feedback, right, which is often where you're going to be getting course corrected when you're being intellectually dishonest, then you can continue to live in this bubble. And ultimately, I think all you do is you hurt yourself. And I know many people that are like, this is why I'm bringing this up, is I've had interactions with people that are hyper intelligent, they're hyper senior, and they start behaving in an intellectually dishonest way by choice. And I think everybody else can kind of see it. And they don't realize that what's happening is they are becoming a pariah, right? It's like they are isolating themselves. They're losing access to other people because, again, a lot of superstars, it's not their job to make you better. And like, one of the kindest things that people can do for you, I think, is to approach you and say, I think you're being intellectually dishonest here, and I'm trying to help you. But if you have people that are hyper defensive, it's very hard to have that conversation, because you have a history of being defensive, and so people are not going to get through to you. Which is why, in my mind, this is one of like the byproducts of this is, if you find that you're the type of person where people are constantly giving you feedback, that's actually a blessing of your personality, is that people are so comfortable and feel so safe with you that they're not worried that you're going to have an emotional outburst, and that you are such an intellectually honest person that they can share things with you. And it kind of sucks, right? Because, and I suspect many of you on GDT are probably like this, is that you are deep thinkers, you are very approachable, right? Like, you're here because we talk about complicated things about growth and learning, and it can really suck, because it often feels like, for the love of God, everybody is giving me feedback, and it's completely unsolicited. But really what that says is that you are very approachable. It actually says more about you than it says about the people, is that you are such a chill dude or dudette that people feel comfortable telling you things, and they're not concerned about you having like an emotional outburst. And the inverse is also true, is that if you are a person where it is the case where most people or no people are ever giving you feedback, it could very well be that you're a very difficult person and you may be the only person in the room that doesn't know it, but a sign that you likely are a very difficult person and you're someone that functions with intellectual dishonesty is if you never get feedback from other people. Because other people are basically just going to resign themselves to the fact that I'm not going to do it. This person's a pain in the ass. I don't want to help them. Or I've tried to help them in the past and they just take this defensive posture, so it's a waste of time. I have better things to do with my time. Yeah. And I'm happy to say that nowadays people seem very comfortable giving me feedback. So everybody's giving me feedback. I love it. So I must be super chill, or I just must be so dumb that I'm making so many mistakes that everybody is trying to help level me up. But honestly, there was a time when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, where nobody gave me feedback, and it wasn't because I was super smart or I was killing it. It's that I was just such a pain in the ass that people just didn't want to deal with me. And don't be that person, right? Don't be that person, because you you are not the knower of all things. This is like one of my favorite things to say before I start monologuing, is that I'm not the knower of all things. There's many things that I don't know, and I'm gonna make a mistake. And now here, let me try to get something off my chest. And then when people say, "Hey, Goju, you totally screwed this up," my first response is, "Yeah, I told you right at the beginning. I'm not the knower of all things. I'm so used to screwing this stuff up that it's just like I expect it. That's I've got like the safeguards in place because I know I'm going to need them later. I'm almost never coming into the argument where I'm thinking I'm going to nail this. I'm going to get every detail right. Like, I'm old enough and I've done this enough to know it's exactly the opposite of what's going to happen. Is I guarantee you I'm going to make mistakes and screw this up. It's just a question of how many mistakes I'm going to make, how much I'm going to screw this up. Anyway. All right, guys. This was a fun stream. I actually did want to talk about the intellectual honesty and dishonesty thing. Just because I was getting into some stuff where people that I really like, people that I want to try to level up, but they start to behave in an intellectually dishonest way. And even when I'm raising it with them on like, hey, 1 + 1 is not 3, right? Can we agree on this? It's like, oh, the hell it is. It's sort of like the what is that guy's name? Terrence Howard. Like, is that his name? He's like the guy that's doing the new mathematics, where I think the whole premise of it is he's trying to make the argument that all prime numbers are odd, and therefore the number 2 can't be prime. But that's actually not what the definition of prime number is. The definition of a prime number is that Terrence. Yeah, it's like Terrence Mathematics or something. The definition of prime, to the best of my knowledge, is that the number is only divisible by itself or the number 1. That's it. And so, yes, actually, the number 2 is prime. It just happens to be the smallest even number, which is why it's still a prime number. But every other even number is not, because all of those other even numbers are divisible by 2. But there is no smaller even number than 2, which is why 2 is a prime. But like the basis of his mathematics, as I think I sadly know, for who knows why, or at least when I was reading it, this was like, I think one of the arguments that it's like, it's just flawed. It's just a very minor thing. He's absolutely right that every other prime number that exists is not even. It's true. But there is one, the smallest even number. And it is actually still prime according to the definition of prime numbers. So it's just a one-off. Like that's the thing, is it's just a one-off, but this is one of the cases where I think that's intellectual dishonesty. Because if you were intellectually honest, what you would do is you would do this. What is the definition of a prime number? This is the first thing that I would do. And then I would read the definition of a prime number. And it says this: prime numbers are whole numbers greater than 1 that have exactly 2 factors, 1 and themselves. Therefore, the number 2 is prime. And then I would read that, and then I would be like, oh, I got my whole theory of mathematics wrong. Let me change it and try to resolve this. I wouldn't just pretend like this doesn't exist. I wouldn't try to turn a blind eye to this and pretend like I can't read this sentence. Like, that is, in my mind, the definition of intellectual dishonesty. Perfect, I think, example. And I believe that people have tried to explain this to him and said, well, can't you just look at the definition of prime numbers? And he's like, no, I know what the definition of prime numbers is. And it's sort of like, but you don't, bro. But you don't. Because if you did, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. And it's not to say that he's not a smart guy, right? Like, I love that he deeply cares about mathematics, but like, this is, as a scientist, this is one of the things that you have to do. You have to function with, in this space, it's called scientific integrity. It's the notion that you have to acknowledge that you could be wrong. And if someone points something out that is logically valid, or they show the data that demonstrates that you're wrong, as someone with scientific integrity, you have to acknowledge that. It's like the Hippocratic Oath. This is what scientific integrity means, at least the way that I was trained on it. So now we know what I think about intellectual honesty, and now we also know what I think about scientific integrity. Actually, let's look at this just to see if I'm smoking crack or not. What is the definition of scientific integrity? Okay, research integrity, I call it scientific. The active adherence of ethical principles, professional standards, conducting, reporting relevant. It ensures research is honest, accurate, reliable, and trustworthy. Yeah. And somewhere in here, it's... Yeah, so you have to do this, but there's another part where... Okay, maybe I am... I mean... Is there a piece in here about... Okay, I guess maybe this piece. Conveying information truthfully in all aspects. So this would be acknowledging... I thought that there was something in here about how you have to... Yes, it's reliable and reproducible, but it's this... Right, it's this general notion of trust. That if something is shown to you that's wrong in your own research, you have to... you cannot ignore it. if it's like logically sound, or it's evidence that is counter to what you're showing, but it's valid, have to, you cannot ignore it. You can't just pretend. Approaching another person's idea or words without credit. Okay, no, not that. Falsifying, manipulating research. Yes, so obviously don't do that. Fabrication. No, don't do that. Conveying information. Hold on. I want to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. Yeah, I want to see scientific integrity. This is what I'm talking about. Basically, here we go. It's going to basically be the same thing. It's just slightly different. Yeah, this part is something that I do quite a bit of. So I'm on like a lot of these program committees, and I have to do peer review. And part of the peer review process is to critique other people's work in an in this way, where you're fair, impartial, and yeah, I guess maybe timely, but you're basically trying your best to act with intellectual honesty. Yeah, here you go. Here, this accountability piece. So once you know, you're taking responsibility for the accuracy of the research. And so if someone makes you aware of something that is a flaw in your research, even if you didn't observe it originally and it's valid, you have to have this as, you have to acknowledge it. Or you have to at least consider it to then understand. And it could be that this is just a corner case and it just adds to, okay, so this is a corner case and you need to include it in like, oh, it doesn't work for this space or something of that nature. But you don't essentially do a Terrence Howard where you double down and say, yeah, I'm going to just be in pretend world on this. Okay. So thank you guys. This was awesome. I feel like it was a 2 hour venting session. Thank you. You guys are all my therapists tonight. I appreciate it. Uh, Send me the bill later. uh, Everybody stay safe. Keep going, keep growing, and let's do this again tomorrow night. And then we'll have our awesome midday Saturday stream as we do as always. Oh, hold on, before I drop. Everyone's invited to the Discord. The Discord has over 100 people. We have over 100 people on our Discord, which I don't generally really care about the whole numbers thing, but I wanted to share it in that what's so great about the Discord is now that there's over 100 people, there's often people online on our Discord no matter what time of day. So no matter what time zone you're in, you're going to find Jeters that are on the Discord that are hanging out, that want to talk nerd, and it's like a super respectful community. It's like one of my favorite places to chill. Oftentimes for the Discord, I actually just lurk and just read the stuff that everybody else is posting. So for example, right now it looks like there's 16 people online and they're probably all talking about all kinds of awesome and crazy stuff literally right now. In fact, I think I just saw something pop up as I was looking at the actual Discord. So check it out. If you like GDT, I think you'll probably very much like our